The sky did not whisper that night. It screamed. A blood-red comet tore across the heavens like a blade slicing the dark. Even the animals went still. Crickets stopped their song. Dogs tucked their tails. In the village of Jaluma, old women looked up from their fire pits, spines stiff with knowing. "Something has arrived," whispered the oldest among them, eyes wide with fear and wonder. In a round earthen hut beneath that very sky, a girl was born. Her mother, Tula, gripped the woven, sleeping mat with one hand and her husband's trembling fingers with the other. Her face was slick with sweat, her voice hoarse from pushing. "She's here," said the midwife, lifting the newborn high. The baby wailed, fierce, loud, proud, as if she knew the world was already watching. Outside, the last streak of comet light vanished behind the hills. Tula held her close. "Her name is Nyana," she said, her voice soft as silk cotton, "for she brings light into darkness." Jaluma was a land of dust, music, and mango trees. Hidden deep in the Mbali plains, it was a village too proud to ask the world for anything and too ancient to care for maps. Its people were grounded and golden, their lives tied to stories, harvests, and the rhythm of drums. Baru, Nyana's father, was a man of soil and silence, his hands always crusted with earth, his voice low and full of meaning. Tula, her mother, was his opposite, bold, loud, a spinner of tailies who filled the village square with laughter and wonder. At night, Tula's voice would float through the smoke of cooking fires as Nyana lay curled in her arms. "You must never forget who you are," she would whisper. "You are stardust, child. Mikasa sent you here to shine." Nyana grew strong and tall, her skin smooth and deep like river clay. Her eyes were filled with questions. Her laughter, when it came, was like birds at sunrise. She helped her father in the fields, played with goats, and sat by her mother's side as Tula told her of warrior queens, clever orphans, and skies that could speak. But then came the coughing. Tula's laugh turned into wheezing. Her body thinned. The healer brought roots, powders, chants, but nothing stopped the sickness. On her final night, she pulled Nyana close. "No matter how cruel the wind becomes," she said, her fingers brushing Nyana's cheek, "do not let it steal your joy. That joy is your shield, your gift. Protect it." Nyana nodded, too young to understand what goodbye truly meant. The next morning, Tula was gone. After her mother's burial, the world lost its music. The hut was quiet now. Baru tried to keep going, but he was a man used to following, not leading. The fields grew wild. The goats wandered. And Nyana sat beneath the baobab every evening, staring up at the stars without asking them anything. Villagers whispered, "She needs a mother. She needs sisters. She needs laughter again." Within the year, Baru remarried. Her name was Sira, a widow from the eastern edge of Mali, who came with sharp eyes and 2 daughters, Luma and Kina. The villagers welcomed them with cautious smiles. Sira wore bright fabric and spoke with honey on her tongue, but her eyes never softened, not even when she smiled. Nyana, now 12, tried her best. She offered Sira her mother's necklace as a gift. She helped Luma braid her hair. She taught Kenna to balance calabashes on her head. But kindness does not always plant roots. Sira watched Nyana the way hawks watch chicks. She didn't like the way people in the village greeted the girl first, or how elders called her the comet child, or how her own daughters, pampered and proud, began copying the way Nyana walked, the way she smiled. "You think you're special," Sira snapped one day, her voice sharp like thorns, as Nyana helped grind maize. "Just because you were born under fire?" Nyana blinked, confused. "I don't think that." Sira leaned close. "Well, stop shining, little star. Some of us prefer the dark." From that day, things changed. Nyana's chores doubled. She swept the compound before sunrise and stayed up after everyone slept, washing pots until her fingers wrinkled. She fetched water from the far well, even when the river ran high. She cooked, cleaned, scrubbed, sewed, and Sira praised Luma and Kina for all of it. Baru noticed, but slowly his voice grew softer, his back bent. His smile faded. He was tired. Tired from farming, from grief, from Sira's sharp tongue that cut through peace like a machete through yam. Sira is just firm, he told himself. She means well, but in truth, the light had left him. Only Nyana kept hers, barely. Each night, when the work was done, she would sit by the old baobab, the one where her mother used to sing, and stare at the sky. "Why do they hate me?" she whispered one night. "I only want to belong. I only want to see the moon festival. Not take anyone's place." She wiped her tears before they could fall. And somewhere, in the shadows between the trees, something ancient stirred. The dry season arrived like a lion, hot, fierce, and loud. Dust danced in the streets of Jaluma, carried by the wind like gossip. The people fanned themselves under mango trees, wiping sweat from their brows. Children ran barefoot, dodging chickens. Drummers played slower now, their hands heavy with heat. Then came the thunder of drums no one expected. Boom, boom. 3 heavy beats echoed through the hills, followed by the sound of the village crier's gourd horn. People poured into the square, eyes wide, ears sharp. An elder stood in the middle, wrapped in royal indigo, holding a scroll sealed in gold leaf. His voice rang out like a story meant for the stars. "By the word of King Tandik of the house of Udila," he declared, "his son, Prince Olameg, shall choose a bride at the upcoming moon festival. All maidens of noble villages, including Jaluma, are summoned to attend." The crowd gasped. Girls shrieked with excitement. Mothers clutched their daughters and whispered dreams into their ears. "He's here?" one woman said. "In our village?" asked another. They hadn't seen royalty in years. But now the young prince, known for his wisdom and beauty, would visit Jaluma and choose his future queen from among them. Back at Nyana's home, the news spread like wildfire. Luma and Kina screamed in delight. They ran to their mother, tugging her sleeves, demanding new dresses. "We want silk," Luma cried. "And beads in our hair," Kenna added. Sira's eyes gleamed. She sold 2 baskets, 3 hens, and even one of Baru's goats to buy the finest fabric from the traders. All for her daughters. Nana watched silently as the dresses were sewn by firelight, flowing wrappers of sea blue and coral pink stitched with cowrie shells. She dared to ask, just once, "May I go too?" Sira didn't even look up. "Go, you? With those dusty feet and rough hands?" "I'll clean up," Nyana whispered. "I just want to see the dancing. That's all." "You'll embarrass us," Sira snapped. "You're not one of us. You're a servant. Stay home." On the night of the festival, the compound shimmered with perfume and laughter. Luma and Kina twirled in front of the mirror. Sira tied their headscarves tight and kissed their cheeks. They left without a single word to Nyana. She sat alone by the baobab tree, hands clasped, heart heavy. "I only wanted to see the moon dance," she whispered to the stars. "Not steal anyone's crown." The wind shifted. The leaves rustled, and from the shadows, something stepped forward. An old woman, wrapped in deep indigo, her skin glowing like moonlight on river water. Her eyes held centuries. In her hand, a crooked staff glowed faintly with gold light. "Do not weep, child," she said, her voice both a lullaby and thunder. "I am here, sent by your mother's love." Nyana gasped. "Who are you?" "I am the keeper of lost joy," the woman sighed, raising her staff. And just like that, the earth shimmered. Nyana's ragged wrapper turned into a gown of midnight and stars. Her bare feet glowed with glass-like sandals. Her tangled hair wove itself into golden braids. She was transformed, not into someone else, but into the beauty she always was. The old woman smiled, her eyes glowing like the moon reflected in water. "Take this," she said, gesturing to a small hand-carved coach pulled by a goat the color of smoke. The wheels were made of woven cane, glimmering with gold dust. "But remember," she warned, leaning closer, "this magic is borrowed, child. When the final drum beats at midnight, all will vanish. You must leave before the night forgets you." Nyana nodded, heart racing, and climbed into the coach. When she arrived at the moon festival, the entire village froze. Drummers missed a beat. Dancers stopped mid-step. Even the wind seemed to pause. No one recognized her, not even Sira. Or Luma, or Kina. She didn't look like a girl who swept floors and carried water. She looked like something made of starlight and dreams. Her gown shimmered with every breath of moonlight, flowing like a river of midnight silk. Her sandals sparkled like frost on fresh yam leaves. Prince Olamide sat beneath a canopy of white cloth and hanging lanterns, surrounded by elders, warriors, and nobles. But his eyes left all of them the moment he saw her. He stood, crossed the courtyard, and with a voice soft as palm wine and strong as a drumbeat, he said, "May I have this dance?" Nyana hesitated, glancing at the swirling crowd. But something in his gaze made her heart steady. "Yes," she whispered. They danced, twirling through the candlelight, the flutes and drums rising around them like waves. Her laughter mixed with his, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel like a servant or an orphan or a shadow in someone else's home. She felt seen. But midnight was coming. As the first deep gong of the final hour rang across the hills, Nyana remembered the old woman's words. Panic surged through her chest. "I must go." She gasped. "Wait." Prince Olamide called, reaching for her hand. "I don't even know your name." But Nyana was already running. Through dancers, through lantern light, across the courtyard. One slipper slipped from her foot as she leapt into the goat-drawn coach. By the time she reached her doorstep, the gown had vanished, her feet were bare, her hands smelled of soap, and the coach was gone. The next morning, the prince made an announcement that shook every hut. "I will marry only the woman who fits this slipper," he declared, holding up the delicate glass sandal. "The one who danced with me under the moon." With guards at his side, he began knocking on every door in Jaluma. When they arrived at Sira's house, she panicked. "Quick!" she hissed to Nyana, thrusting a heap of dirty clothes into her arms. "Go scrub, and don't you dare come out." Luma and Kina ran to the door, grinning like jackals. They pushed, pulled, twisted, forced their feet into the slipper, but it would not fit. Prince Olamide narrowed his eyes. "Is there no one else here?" "No," Luma lied. But at that moment, from somewhere inside, came a soft hum, a voice as warm, as fire and gentle as night rain. The prince turned to his guard. "Find out who's singing." Moments later, a servant returned, leading a girl with wet hands and wide eyes. "You," the prince said, standing slowly. "Come forward." Nyana's heart thundered in her chest. She stepped forward and slowly slid her foot into the slipper. It fit. From her apron pocket, she pulled the second slipper, whole and shining. The room went silent. Prince Olamide knelt before her. "You are the one I've been searching for," he said. Sira and her daughters collapsed to their knees, begging forgiveness. But Nyana stood tall. "I forgive you," she said, remembering her mother's words, "but I will not return to your house. Let your own hands guide your future." Sira said nothing. The prince held Nyana's hand, and together they walked into a new life. Months passed. The palace filled with laughter and music again. Nyana, now Princess Nyana, carried new light in her belly. She was with child now. Her hands often rested gently over her stomach, feeling the soft flutter of the life growing within. But her body was tired. The royal healer told her to rest, and so the drums danced without her. One afternoon, a dusty messenger arrived with news that chilled her spine. "Your stepmother, Lady Sira, she is gravely ill." Sira, that name still made her chest tighten. But the messenger's voice trembled with sincerity. "She wishes to see you one last time, and begs for shelter." Nayana, even now still, held her mother's words close. "Joy is your light, forgiveness your strength." She closed her eyes and whispered to the child inside her, "We will let them stay, but only for a little while." And so Sira and her daughters entered the palace once more, this time not as mistresses of cruelty, but as guests in royal robes, with fine food, warm water, and servants at their call. But Sira's heart had not changed. She had traveled, in secret, to the hills beyond Bali. There, in a forest of red trees, she found a witch who spoke in riddles and lived beneath a thorn tree. The woman gave her a potion. One drop, she said, would twist love into illusion. Make him see only what you want him to see. Back at the palace, Sira played the role of the sick woman. She groaned during the day and whispered with her daughters by candlelight. "Tomorrow," she told Luma, "you will wear the crown." Late that night, she crept into the palace kitchen, her eyes sharp. She watched the prince's stew bubble on the fire, then poured in the potion, golden, thick, and glowing. That evening, Prince Olamed ate alone. Soon after, he staggered to his balcony. His breath hitched. His thoughts clouded like a storm in the sky. And then he saw her, Luma, sitting in the moonlight, brushing her hair with careful strokes. "Bring her to me," he ordered the guard. Luma smiled behind her lashes. The plan was working. But inside her chamber, Nana woke with a start. Something felt wrong. The wind outside had changed. It no longer whispered, it howled. She rose from her bed, wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, and stepped quietly into the hallway. That's when she saw Luma, escorted by the guards, heading toward the prince's chamber. Nana's eyes narrowed. Her heart pounded. She stood, alone by the palace window, one hand resting gently on her swollen belly, the other wiping a silent tear that dared fall. He hadn't looked at her in days. Out in the royal garden, his voice rang clear, laughing, complimenting, sitting too close to the girl who once mocked her with every breath, her stepsister. The same one who had never worked a day, now draped in silks, basking in the attention of the prince. The same prince who once danced with her under stars. At first, she had tried to understand, told herself that the crown must be heavy, that maybe his mind was clouded with duty. But when he began openly praising Luma before guests and letting her pour his wine, her heart began to crack under its own weight. That night, she stepped into his chamber quietly, barefoot on the cold floor, her voice barely louder than the wind. "What's happening to us? Why do you act like I'm a ghost? I am your wife. I carry your child." He sat stiffly, not even turning to meet her eyes. "You have everything you need," he said without feeling. "Comfort. A palace. Soon, a royal heir. What more do you want?" She stared at him, disbelief washing over her. "What more?" Her voice broke. "I want you. The man who once told me I was more precious than starlight. Who promised to hold my heart with both hands." The ache in her chest turned to a burning she couldn't swallow. "And now you praise her, my stepsister?" He finally stood, face cold, voice sharp like a blade. "Luma is a remarkable woman. I've decided I will take her as my second wife." The silence that followed screamed louder than any war drum. She staggered back, heart shattering piece by piece. "How could you?" Her words were no longer soft. After everything, the pain, the betrayal, the years of waiting, me, your wife, cast aside like dust. But he had already turned away. She collapsed onto their bed in tears, clutching her belly, whispering apologies to the child. Growing inside. In the royal guest quarters, quiet laughter echoed. The stepmother leaned in close to her daughters, her voice a victorious hiss. Soon, Luma will be queen, and will finally have the power we deserve. Her daughters giggled in shadows, eyes gleaming with greed. The whispers in the palace kitchens were not kind. Servants exchanged glances, shook their heads. They had seen too much. The queen ignored, her glow dimming, her joy fading. Until one night, her oldest handmaid crept into her chamber, lips pressed tight, heart heavy. She sat at her queen's side, took her hand gently. "My lady, something is wrong. I've seen them sneaking through the halls at night, whispering, laughing, and I overheard Sira telling her daughters to prepare for their rise." The queen blinked slowly, her voice hoarse from weeping. "You think they've done something to him?" The handmaid hesitated, then nodded once. "I believe they've used something. Magic, a spell." For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Then, with trembling resolve, "We must find the truth." That very night, beneath a sky heavy with stars, 2 women rode in silence to the edge of the kingdom, to the dwelling of the seer. An old woman in a robe of thorns opened her door before they even knocked. "You bring pain with you," she said softly. "Come in." They told her everything, the change, the coldness, the prince's new desire. The seer lit a fire, scattered herbs and bones across woven cloth, then closed her eyes. "A love potion," she said at last, her voice heavy with regret, "crafted by a witch of the eastern hills, given to your stepmother. It binds the heart to the first woman seen after drinking." Gasps filled the room. The queen wept anew. "But there is hope," the seer continued. She handed her a vial of silver blue liquid and a talisman carved from river stone. "Slip this into his drink. Let him wear this till dawn. Only then will the truth return to him." She returned quietly before sunrise, cloaked in shadows. She brought him a warm drink with her own hands and a prayer on her lips. "For peace," she said, eyes glistening, "for our child." He drank, hesitating, then nodded. She placed the talisman around his neck gently. "It will protect you from harm." That night his dreams burned. He saw her crying in their bed. He saw Luma brushing her hair in the moonlight. He saw Sira pouring a glowing drop into his wine. And he saw himself. Lost, he woke in terror. Sweating, gasping, heart thudding with guilt. He ran barefoot, breathless, down the marble halls, past guards who called after him. And when he reached her chambers, she was already awake, sitting quietly, eyes swollen from too many sleepless nights. He dropped to his knees. "I remember," he whispered. "I see it all, what they did, what I did. I betrayed you." She looked at him long and hard, pain deep in her gaze. "You broke me," she said. "But I forgive you. Not for you, for our son." By midday, the throne room filled. He stood tall once more, crown heavy on his brow, but justice heavier in his hand. He called forth Sira, Luma, and Kina, told the truth before the court. They cast spells. They betrayed the crown, and they shall live in its shadow forever. They were stripped of their robes, jewels torn from their ears, and escorted barefoot from the kingdom, with nothing but a bag of grain and their shame. Sira hissed as she crossed the palace gates. "She regret this," she muttered. But even she knew her reign was over. The child was born beneath a sky so clear the stars could see their own reflections. The kingdom celebrated, and the people whispered of their queen, not for her crown, but for her fire, her forgiveness, and her strength. In every shadow cast by envy and betrayal, there is always a light waiting to rise. Naina's journey teaches us that grace in the face of injustice, forgiveness in the face of pain, and courage in the face of loss are the truest forms of royalty. Even when others try to steal your light, never forget who you are. If this tale touched your heart, let your voice join ours, like the story if you believe in rising above the odds. Subscribe to hear more forgotten legends and timeless wisdom from the heart of Africa. And don't forget to share this story with someone who needs a little light today. Till next time, stay wise, stay kind, and keep the fire of our stories alive.